I wanted to do a little bit more live coding on this project. Hopefully I won't do many edits on this video. We can log in and we can submit an idea. And I think one thing that'd be good to do is if you're not logged in, I think this thing will just throw an exception. Like if I create an idea, it just doesn't do anything, right? So we need to go and make sure that the form is properly validating that you're logged in. Or if you click on create idea, maybe we should just show a modal that says, hey, you need to log in to be able to do this. So I think that's the approach I'm going to take. Let's go and we're going to add that in the code. So the first thing I'd probably do is find that page, which I think we have a form here. So we can go to the form. And what I'm going to do is there's a shadcn dialog that we could probably add in with the sign in button. Let's just go over here and we're going to ask AI to basically add that in. I'm going to say, when a user tries to submit an idea in the form without being logged in, please show a dialog with a button that asks them to log in first. This is a closable dialog. Let's see how far this could take it. And again, actually, no, let me stop that. I'm going to go ahead and just drag this in so that I'm in the actual form itself. So hopefully this should be able to add it in. There's like a shadcn dialog and a shadcn modal, I think. I already have the dialog installed, so hopefully it'll just kind of wrap some stuff in a dialog and then show it when we submit it without being authenticated. Now in the front end, I don't even know how to check if we're authenticated, and I don't know if AI is going to get that right either. So we'll see how far this can take it. Okay, so it's going to say, let's make these changes. All right, so one thing I like to do is read through this. Use the auth client use session. So that is the proper way to check if we're authenticated. So it does know about that, which is good. So it added a show login dialog. It's grabbing the session from auth client. Again, we're using better auth. So when you create a better auth client, you'll get a object that you can use over here to check if the session is defined or not. So when you submit this form, if there's no session, and if the session is not loading, show a login dialog. Okay, otherwise we can create the idea and we can reset. Okay, so I think this should hopefully be good. I want to see where the dialog is added underneath the form. So it's going to show login required. You click a button, it's going to take you to login. I don't think this is the proper way to do the login. So I think I'm going to do a login. How do I do this? Let's go to the header. There should be a login section. I think I call it sign in. And it looks like this. So we can actually grab this. Instead of having a login button, we're going to call the sign in with social. So I'm going to delete this. We could probably grab the class and try to see what styling it did for it, but kind of rather just use the shadcn button now. So I'll do this. And this also should probably be a shadcn button. All right, let's just submit this and we'll go back and see what this looks like. So create idea, login required. You must be logged in to submit an idea. Please log in to continue. Make sure I can close this. Click sign in. It takes me to Google. And then I can sign in. Now, one thing I just noticed is that it didn't show me the ideas until I was authenticated. That's kind of problematic. I want all the ideas that people upload to always show for everybody. So let's go back and try to figure out where that's happening. Let's go to the routes index, and then we're going to find where we get the use query to get the ideas. Okay, right here. So where we fetch it from the backend. And this server function has a middleware that says is authenticated. Now, I don't think we actually need this. We don't need the check if we're authenticated, so I can just remove this. And now, regardless if I'm signed in or signed out, the ideas should show up. Now, one thing I noticed is that the loading indicator kind of sucks. Like you see that loading indicator right there. It's just like a quick little loading ... I think we can do this better. So I'm going to go ahead and just reprompt AI and say, can you please add a better loading indicator using a skeleton loader with 4 placeholder idea cards? And I'll say, please use shadcn skeleton. Make the code as maintainable as possible. Okay, let's see how this kind of works out. Now, the reason I said make the code as maintainable as possible is sometimes when it adds in skeleton loaders, it doesn't really, like, how can I say this? It kind of makes it hard. So like when you modify the idea card, the styling doesn't match up with the skeleton loader. So there's a bunch of like content shifting and vertical shifting and stuff. One recent change I'm kind of annoyed with cursor is like it always asks you, do you want me to proceed? Like it didn't used to do that. It used to just do it for me. I find that kind of annoying. I don't know why they made that change. Maybe other people like it, but I liked it better when it just like made the code changes, because most of the time the changes it made, I'm going to accept anyway. And then I can just reprompt it and change them if they weren't good. But maybe they're trying to save on tokens or something. Okay, so we have an idea skeleton. And this is being used down here in the loader. Awesome. Now if I click on refresh, in fact, I could probably go to network tab over here, and I'm going to throttle this. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I'll make it fast 4G. And I'm going to run this, and notice that we do have some loading cards over here. Okay. Looks pretty good. Actually, I like the design of the skeleton loader more than the actual card that we had before. So I may actually ask it to restyle the card. This skeleton loader looks good. Can you also style the card itself to have a similar look? For example, I notice a HR in the card, which isn't in my card. In the skeleton card, it isn't in the card. Okay, I don't know why I just deleted the HR. I don't think it truly understood what I was saying. Should have modified idea card. Did it even modify this? I'm going to reprompt this. I'm going to actually reject all. I'm going to say, please make the idea card match a similar style of the skeleton cards in the index. Let me just check this out real quick. Okay, that's a closer style. All right, let's look at the changes real quick. So the idea card was modified, and they basically removed all the shadcn card stuff. I'm kind of okay with that. Like as long as it's uniform between the skeleton idea card and this one, I think it's fine. Let's go back to the form. And one thing I want to do is I'm going to say when after the form is submitted, please show a toast using the default shadcn toast component. Let's go ahead and just do that. So let's try to install Sonar. I want to make sure that that is the proper way to do toasts. So let's go here, I'll click toasts. And it does say it uses Sonar. Let's see, the toast component has been deprecated. See the Sonar documentation. Okay, I guess it's not building the shadcn anymore, so we got to use Sonar. All right, so this should, hopefully when we submit, it should show a toast. And typically you just say like, where's toaster? Okay, one thing I'll point out is that typically the toaster should go in the root. So let's find the root, and then we are going to import the toaster up here. And then we're going to go back to where we're using it. We're going to delete that. Actually, no, we're going to cut that out. I'm going to go back to the root here, and I'm going to put the toast here, just on the main root. Just because usually there's a bunch of different pages that you want toast on, not just one. And so like you don't want to have to put this toaster on every single page that you want to toast. I think it's better just to have it at the root anyway. So let's just accept this and go back and make sure if I submit, it shows a toast, idea created, your idea has been submitted. Pretty cool. Yeah, what else can we do here? So we have the ability to delete. I think the ability to upvote people's ideas would be pretty cool. So that's going to be a more complicated thing to add in. So we're going to go to a schema, and then we're going to go ahead and just say like upvotes. I'll just call it upvote. And we have to basically link this upvote with a foreign key to the idea itself. And also the to-dos can go away. I don't think we need to-dos, but this needs to reference an idea ID. And that could be an idea ID. I can't even speak. Idea ID, which is going to reference idea ID over here. And if it exists for a user, like we probably want to add some type of composite key. So that I might have to go look at the docs for how to do. Say, please check out the drizzle docs to figure out how to make a composite key over user ID and idea ID for the upvote table. And then I actually don't need a primary key here for this ID. Well, I guess I could keep the primary ID. You can also just add a composite constraint if that would work better. So what I'm doing here is I don't want someone to be able to upvote the same idea twice, right? You can only ever have one idea upvoted. And so you could have that either in your business logic, or you can add it at the database level to add a constraint to say, hey, you can't have a user ID and a same idea ID twice, right? So you need to add some type of constraint. Maybe it's like a unique constraint. And then it's going to give us some approaches here, right? So one way you can do it is you could do this comma with the primary key, or you can do a composite unique constraint, which I'm going to do this one because I do want a primary like auto incrementing ID. I typically add that to all my tables if possible. Maybe it's a bad idea, but I think it's fine. So let's add that in, bring in unique from PG core. And now that's going to make sure that we have a unique key where we can't have a duplicate of these two joined together. Okay, anyway, so I think this should be good. I'm going to go ahead and just say generate, and I'll say migrate. Oh, let's see. Is upvote table created or named for another table? I created upvote. So let's do that. And then it should have removed the to-dos, but I don't know. Let's run the migrate. Okay. So now at this point, I want to add in the ability. Let's go to my card. I have an idea card over here. And I want to add the ability to upvote. Please add the ability for a logged in user to upvote on an idea card or on an idea. They can also remove their upvote by clicking the thumbs up icon to remove the vote. The way upvoting should work is if it is upvoted, add a record in the upvote table. Otherwise, you'd remove it. Be sure to update the code to join with this table when fetching the idea, so I know when to display the upvote or not in the UI. Okay, let's see if it can kind of go through my code and fix all this up. All right, so I gave it some time to cook, and let's kind of review the things that it changed. So in the idea card, we have an upvote idea function. It does require authentication. It requires an idea ID. It looks up the idea from the database where the idea ID matches the thing we're trying to do. And we check to see if the user ID matches it too. If it's not found, we go ahead and insert one. All right. And then remove upvote. Basically does the same thing, and then it removes it. Now, we could technically have this being one server function called like toggle vote, but I think this approach is fine. And then we have two different mutations. So if you click on it, it'll either upvote it or remove it. This is pretty straightforward, right? And then over here we have some buttons, which it keeps never using the shadcn button. So I might actually tell it to fix this button. Please remember, add to cursor memory to always use a shadcn button component instead of implementing your own. And I'm gonna go ahead and paste in that code. Yeah, because it just seems like it keeps making basic buttons, and it's like, I want you to use the components we already have. All right, and so I added that to my memory so that in the future, hopefully we'll stop doing this, because it's done it basically twice or 3 times already. And one thing I would recommend that if you want to get better at using agentic coding is like use the memory feature and tell it to remember stuff so that it'll like do a better job. Although it didn't even like refactor this. So you know what, screw it. I'm just going to make this a button myself. Sometimes it's faster just to do stuff yourself. I'm actually going to say change the variant based on upvote. Actually, I don't even need this. Let me get rid of that. Okay, let's just accept all, and let's go back to the UI and check. So we got an upvote button. I don't really like the style of that button at all, honestly. I think if I go variant, we could say ghost. Maybe that's better. Why is this doing that? Let me do ghost. Yeah, that's better. Maybe there's a trash icon. Where's the trash icon? Let me find the delete. I want this to be a variant ghost as well. Variant ghost. Okay, there. That's better. Yeah, so if I click on upvote, it should have made a request to the backend and created an upvote record. Now I can't see that. Let's go to Tables Plus and just make sure that we have an idea upvote added. Okay, so it is added. And if I go back and click it again, did it get removed? It did not. So I think there's a little issue there. Let's go back to my code. And I'm going to go ahead and just, actually, let me read through before I just ask AI to fix it for me, because I probably will. I want to make sure that I know what the heck's going on. Okay, so here, it's supposed to check the idea upvote ID. Let me see how this is being joined, because maybe it's not being joined properly. Let's see. So we should get the ideas somewhere, which would happen over here. It should fetch the idea, and then it should left join on the upvote ID somewhere. Oh, I think this is the issue where this doesn't have access. I'm not using the authenticated middleware. So I think I need to add a middleware. I'll add it back, the authenticated one. But the difference is I'm going to go ahead and what should I do here? So like I want to have one that checks to make sure you're authenticated, because I don't even want you to hit the endpoint unless you have a user. But the other one's an optional authentication. Maybe I'll call it that. And so instead of like redirecting if there's no session, I think I can just go ahead and like do this. Yeah, I might do this. Does this return null for the user though? It does. This could potentially be undefined or null. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of this, see if it works. So now I can actually use this optional authentication instead when I'm fetching all the ideas, because this could potentially be undefined, depending on if you're authenticated or not. And if you're not, then like, what are we left joining on? Nothing, right? We don't have a user ID. Okay, I think this should be good. Now, I'm not too sure about this. I'd rather like this optionally be sent in only when user ID is set. I'm not sure if this is going to potentially cause issues or not. But we could test it out. Let's go back to the code. And now we see that we have like this thing. That seems like it works. We're going to go back to Tables Plus real quick and make sure. So upvoted, we're going to get rid of both of those, and they're gone now. Okay, so I think the upvoting works fine. I think showing a toast when you do upvote would be kind of beneficial to the user. So I think I can do this without having to like do it by hand. We are going to just bring in a toast using Sonar. So let's find out where we create this whole thing. All right, over here, we'll say toaster. I don't remember how to toast. You just do this, toast. Is that like a query? Yeah, you just run toast succeed, okay. So bear with me. What I'm trying to do is when you successfully upvote or downvote, we could just simply show a toast, and then we'll say upvoted, downvoted, and then toast we just import from Sonar, and then we can go back to the UI, click upvote, here we go. Now, some more things would be good to add is like how many people have upvoted this thing. So again, Let's see if we can get this done with some type of modification to this. I'm going to start small. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I want you to also display how many upvotes an idea has, so that later I can sort them. Or if you just want to sort the query for me, that would be great. Okay, so I think you might have to do some type of subselect to be able to count how many total ideas are attached to this. If I was better at SQL, I could probably type this out by hand, but honestly, I'll be honest, I'm not that great with SQL. Another approach instead of a subselect is you could actually have the count, like the number of upvotes added to the idea itself, so that you don't have to recompute it and do all these joins every single time, because that could be kind of using a lot of CPU on your database. But let's see, it does an upvote count, upvote ID, map with number, order by upvote count descending. Let's see if it can actually kind of get through this. Looks like it's having a little bit of trouble getting through this. Okay, so let's check this out. So it's trying to do an upvote count and count how many upvote IDs exist. But then down here it does an order by the number of counts of the upvote IDs, grouping it. I'm not sure about this. It just removed this whole like upvote left join. It used to left join on the user ID, but now it's gone. So I'm not sure. Maybe it did some type of change over here. Yeah, I'm not convinced. Let me just double check AI. I'm going to say, it seems like you removed the left join related to user ID. How now will I know if a user upvoted this idea or not? Let's see if it kind of can fix that. Yeah, they basically broke the existing functionality. So that's one thing you have to get used to, is like, the better you understand how to read code, the better you can fix AI, because you know it kind of broke your code. So let's see, example by Drizzle, you can do this, keep the left join for the current user's upvote, adding a subquery. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So yes, please refactor with the subquery. Okay, let's see if this works. It did show a number there, that's good. And it does actually sort it too, which is nice. Yeah, so I think this is pretty good. Let me just log out and make sure this thing doesn't break. Okay, yeah, so now it's like, when you're not logged in, these shouldn't be buttons. These should just be icons, probably. So we have to fix that real quick. But before we do that, we have made a lot of changes. One thing I recommend doing is every time you prompt AI, you should probably commit your code. So adding the ability to upvote ideas, and we're going to go ahead and submit that. And then we're going to go ahead and start fresh. Let's go and load up the idea card, and we want to say, when a user is not authenticated, do not show a button for the upvotes. Instead, just show an icon of a thumbs up with the vote count. And then it's probably going to modify this, and it's going to probably do a ternary or some type of conditional to say, hey, if we're not authenticated, just show a thumbs up button with the count. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back and make sure. Okay, so now we just have a way to view the upvotes, and you can't click them. But if you sign in, you can then do something with that. I think the very last thing I'll do in this video is I want to find this form again, and we are going to double check the input, because it doesn't look like a shadcn input or not. It looks like something that was done custom. So I want to actually make this use the default shadcn components. So we're going to go ahead and say, I see you didn't use the shadcn form /inputs /text areas. Please update your memory to always use a shadcn component first when implementing pages. And then I'm going to say, now update this page to use a shadcn form and input and text area, along with the existing client-side validation. that's in place. Okay, that last one I added in just because sometimes, as you've seen, you tell it to refactor stuff and it actually like deletes a lot of code. So also while this is doing its thing, let's go back to the main index where we're doing the fetch here. I would say, like, I let AI kind of implement this subquery for me, but I'm not 100% convinced this is proper. So I'm going to add a little to-do. Verify this query is performant and correct. It seems like it's correct because we tested it in the UI. And this is just doing a subquery every single time. So if we have a bunch of votes, it may start causing some performance issues. Honestly, like this app isn't ever going to be big or have a lot of data, so it's not really a real concern. But a lot of people like to talk about performance, and it's good to have the mindset of like, is this performant or not, regardless of the size of your data. So select upvote where, map with number, upvote count, order from upvote, we're up to. Yeah, I mean, I think this is fine. The code seems fine. I'd be curious if there was a way to do the order by based on the upvote count that we've already derived. Like doing 2 subqueries seems kind of silly. If that's something that we can circumvent, we should probably do that. But anyway, let's focus on this. We're going to the form. We're refactoring it to use all the shadcn stuff. And then let's go back to the UI. The form looks better. Before the form looked weird. It had like a different background color, but now we're actually using the real components. And I don't like how this has a max width on it. I don't know why we're doing that. Okay, I think this looks better. Except for now, when I click create idea, it doesn't seem to work. That's why it's always good to test your code. When I click on this, what is it doing? It's trying to actually call the backend. So I think some type of client-side validation seemed to have broke. Let me accept this. I'm going to say this looks great, but now when I submit an empty form, it still seems to make a request to the backend. Are you sure you didn't break the client-side validation? Man, why can I not type today? Let's look through here. Handle submit. I think it's supposed to be calling register on all these things. Why is it not calling register? Let's see. It should fix it, but let's just go ahead and get rid of some of this stuff. Oh, it's not using a label either. Why is label not being used? Form label? Is that something new with shadcn? That must be something new. Yeah, when I've used form hook, typically on every form field you have to call register. I don't know what this is doing. Use form.control, like something just feels wrong about that. Very wrong about that. So it's always good to make sure you know what you're doing. Like know how the library works, know how the framework works, so you can double check the code. Check this out. Is it calling register on anything anymore? Form.control. Let's check this out. Okay, it's still doing a submission. It's not doing the client-side validation. So what I'm actually going to do, control, I mean, that seems correct. Form control. Form label. What is our code doing? We have a form control, that looks fine. We have a control added there. We have an on submit. Use form default values. Let's go to use form. And then we set default values, a title and that. Okay, that seems fine. Where's the form? Okay, we put that onto the form. That looks fine. We have a form on submit. That looks fine. Form fields has a control on it. Form.control. Name is username, title, render, form item, label, control, input, field. Where's on submit? Is this thing not... Is that the issue? Is it calling the wrong on submit? Define a submit handler. Can you double check the on submit matches what the docs recommend? And I'll paste a link to the docs. Like this should be a Zod infer, which for some reason it's not doing. I don't even see a Zod validation object, which should have been added here. I guess this, I would have pulled this out to the top. But we'll see what it does. Okay, it's still not catching that. I'm going to say schema. We're going to just put this on here so that we can do a Zod infer over there. And then over here on the submit, just have to do it manually, you know? But again, it's still not working with the validation. Like, I'm not sure what's going on here. If I click on create idea, it still seems to validate it. So I'm going to try one more time. Still, when I submit the form, actually, let me go to the input default value. I don't think this has any min of 1. Title is required. When I submit the form and I do not add a title, it still seems to submit to the backend without validating. Is there something I'm missing here? The issue is that your form is not using the Zod schema for client-side validation. It's only being used on the server. Is that true? Oh yeah, it's not using the resolver. So what we're seeing right now, I would say is a red flag that I'm using AI a little bit too much. I'm too dependent on it. And that's a sign that I need to kind of take a step back and make sure I truly understand the libraries and frameworks I'm using. So Zod, I feel like there's some gray area where I've forgotten how to use it. For example, the resolver. And if I already knew when I reviewed the code, I could have quickly said, hey, you're not putting the resolver in, and I could have fixed that really quick, which is why the validation wasn't working. Now, if I go back, it should validate correctly, and then it works. Okay. The other red flag of when your AI keeps giving you bad examples, it's typically because you don't have good working examples in your code base, because Cursor will index your whole code base to find working examples, and it'll build upon those. This is the first time I had a form trying to use Zod in the resolver. So it went to the internet and it went to its own model to try to find how to do this. And that's when you start getting a lot of inaccuracy, because now it has to go and understand how to use shadcn, how it has to use Zod, how it has to use React hook form, and then how to like tie it all together. And it gets a little bit confused versus if I actually instead, I need you to, like, for example, if I just clicked and dragged and say, hey, use this form as a reference and implement client-side validation on another form, I have seen really good performance and quality results doing that. Anyway, that's a good a learning opportunity to kind of teach you. Again, I've been using AI for quite a while in Cursor for a lot of side projects. And the more structured and well-defined your skeleton or template is, like you have all of these great examples your code can build on, you typically get a lot better results. Let's just go ahead and submit this real quick. I'm going to say, refactor the form to use the shadcn forms. All right, I think we're good. My last comment I would probably say is I'm curious if the way I code is similar to how you code. Like, are you leveraging agentic coding a lot in your day-to-day? And do you, like, how does it work for you? Because I find the way I code, it works pretty well. But you never know if you're kind of coding in a suboptimal way until you watch other people code. And then you realize, wow, I don't know how to code, right? But there's not that many people on YouTube that code. Like, a lot of people just make reaction videos. A lot of people talk about current events. I don't see many people coding on YouTube or Twitch. Half the time they're just talking in the chat. So I don't know what a really optimal way of coding looks like now. I just know the way that I like to code, and I would love to be able to watch really, really good people, even people better than me, code. And maybe they're using Cursor and agentic coding. So leave a comment if you know someone who does a bunch of live coding, who is very, very productive and can really code fast, because I really want to see how other people code these days. All right, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for another video in the future.